Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Leader Class Galvatron from Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Trilogy. Very highly anticipated toy. The last time we had a Galvatron was in Titan's Return, and it was meh at best, I gotta be honest. I understand they wanted to make him a headmaster, but that whole kind of like faceplate gimmick that's spring-loaded up just didn't really work for me. This looks really good. I'm really excited for this. It's a proper Galvatron, no gimmicks or anything. He even comes with the Matrix on a chain around his neck like in the movie, which is fantastic. You can see the artwork here on the box. Really, really cool. I think this is going to be a great toy. So taking a look at the back here, we have the robot mode, we have the cannon mode, and it highlights again the Matrix on the chain. Very, very neat. Over here on the side, you have that kind of standard Kingdom mural that we always see. Obviously, when someone opened the case, they cut along the top of the box, but no big deal. So yeah, pretty standard packaging, but looks really good. I'm going to go ahead, get him out of the box, and we're going to take a closer look. So here is Galvatron out of the packaging, and I have to say, he looks fantastic. Although, I'm not a huge fan of the weathering that they do for this line. I feel like by now, we're at the Kingdom. They could have kind of gotten away from this. I don't really know why they're still doing it. I have seen online some people actually try to take it off with like some rubbing alcohol or some like paint thinner mixed with water or something like that. I'm not going to do that because I don't trust myself to not ruin the toy, but apparently that is an option. I do kind of wish that they just stopped doing that, though. If he would have come out in the Studio Series line, I feel like it wouldn't have happened, and it would have been a nice, cleaner Galvatron. But then he would have been taking up one of the Dinobot spots, so I guess I get it. In any case, he does look really good. Doesn't have a ton of backpack stuff, which is nice, but he does kind of have this piece on the back to kind of replicate that, you know, part of the... I guess it was supposed to be part of his stand in robot mode, but then when he transformed, the stand was gray, so I don't know. I never really understood what that piece on his back was, but he does have these giant treads, which kind of hang off the back of the arm, which isn't great, but they do peg in. They have a tiny peg hole here, and there's a peg here that you can peg them in, but unfortunately when you do that, it will hinder the bicep swivel. So if you don't care about that, you can go ahead and peg those in, and that way they don't flop around. But then if you want the bicep swivel, you can see if I mean, you can kind of move the bicep, but it kind of makes that piece move because it's pegged in. So if you need bicep swivel, you would just kind of have to, you know, put it in the pose you want and then just kind of rest it against. But you can peg it in if you want a little bit of stability there, which is nice. Head sculpt is fantastic. They absolutely nailed it. Let's get a little bit closer there. Really, really sharp. Nice silver paint on the face. The red eyes look great. You have a ball joint there, so you have a little bit of front to back, side to side, no problem. You can even tilt a little bit side to side, but he looks good. Decepticon symbol on the chest looks great. His little red abs that he always has are painted very nicely. So very cool there. Now with the shoulder pauldrons, they come straight up in the packaging like this, but if you want, you can kind of put them out to the side a little bit. I kind of like them there, just a slight, you know, not quite 45-degree angle. But if you want to get crazy with it, I mean, you can do as far as you want. But obviously now there's a gap there, so I kind of like to leave them about there. I feel like that's probably what they're supposed to look like. And I think that looks great. You have a swivel here in the shoulder as well as a hinge. Again, the bicep swivel, but it's hindered by the tread piece. You do have a double jointed elbow because of the transformation. And then you have wrist swivel. You have a waist swivel as well. Pretty standard hips, kick to the front. Pretty much all the way back, out to the side. Thigh swivel there. 90 degrees in the knee. And then, of course, you do have ankle tilt. Nothing front to back, just side to side. But looks good. They really did a nice job with them. I mean, this is a real proper Galvatron. We don't have any crazy flight modes or anything trying to be squeezed in. He's not a headmaster. He just looks good. Now, of course, he wouldn't be Galvatron without his giant signature orange cannon. I feel like it's a little big. I could have done with it being a little bit smaller. Just pegs into the forearm there very easily. Still looks good. I just feel like it's kind of crazy long. I would have been probably okay with it. Maybe just like an inch shorter, something like that. Oh, and I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention these side skirts. So they swivel around, so they have a hinge and a swivel, and that's because of how they transform. So they can get a little wild at times, just kind of rein them in. And then this crotch plate can lift up as well, even though there's really no reason for it to lift up. It doesn't hinder articulation in any way, so I don't really know why it moves. It's not even for the transformation, so I don't know, but it moves if you would like it to. He does come with some other accessories. He has the Matrix on the chain, which almost looks like it should unpeg from the chain, but I haven't gotten it to, and I don't really want to break it, so I'm just going to leave it on there. But this just kind of drops around his head and just rests there. Now there is a little peg spot here, and it looks like this should peg in, but if you peg it in there in robot mode, it's going to sit really goofily. The peg in is for the cannon mode. He can actually wear this in cannon mode. It looks silly, in my opinion, but I guess if he transforms, it's got to go somewhere. But yeah, it just rests there. Looks good. I think it's a fun accessory to include. I don't need it on there all the time, but I love that they included it. And then he's got these two ship cannons. Now these, as far as I know, were included because they wanted to give this to you so that if you bought the HasLab Unicron, you could have this be their ship in scale with Unicron, because it's made to look exactly like their ship from the movie. But he can use them as cannons too if you want, so he can just kind of wield them. They don't really look like guns though, it just looks like he's holding a tiny ship. But you can also peg them together. They show you, you can see these two pegs on the top here, and they just peg in like this. And then it's like a larger cannon. Again, it's neat that they included them. I don't have HasLab Unicron, so they're kind of worthless to me. But hey, if you have HasLab Unicron, go ahead and pose this around him, because it should be perfectly in scale. Now you also have these little tab holes right here, and you have these tabs on the back, so if you wanted to store them on his back, you could certainly do so, and there is room for both of them. So if you want to put them on the back, you can. I really am just going to kind of put them in a box or something. I don't need them. They're cool. I don't need them. I don't love them, but I think it's cool that they included them. So if you have HasLab Unicron, you can have another accessory for him. But yeah, all in all, the only thing I would complain about is the weathering. I feel like it's not needed anymore. I feel like we should probably move past that by now. For Siege, I feel like it made a little bit more sense. They're on, you know, a metal planet. They're battling. They're scraping up their battle damage. But I don't know. I like a cleaner looking Transformer personally, but not a deal breaker by any means. But yeah, overall, he's great. Great articulation. Paint applications are pretty solid. I mean, even everything down here on the legs is really, really sharp and looks good. Oh, I missed. There is some weathering down here on his ankles, which I just noticed. So, but yeah, overall, he looks great. Really, really like him a lot. Alright, so getting into transformation, I'll be honest, I feel like it's more complicated than it needs to be, but it's still fun. I'm going to go ahead and remove the cannon, and we will just put that off to the side here. First thing you're going to do is fold the fists into the forearms, very simply, and then you're going to bring these up on those double jointed elbows and just peg them in. You can see there's a very obvious tab slot right here. So that just tabs in. You're going to unhook the treads if you have them pegged in, otherwise just bring them down and they will just kind of sit. Now they don't peg in, but that's because they have a tilt to them, which you're going to want because they kind of sit at a 45-degree angle. So you're going to want to bring these down, and these things keep getting in my way. All right, so there we go. So that sits there like that. Now at this point you want to unpeg this piece from the back. You can, he does have these heels, which actually help him stand. So you're going to flip those around into the foot. These purple pieces on the back are going to flip around, and you can see that there's a tab here and a little tab spot right there. So that's just going to come around and peg in there on the side of his leg. So bring that in and peg that in. Then you're going to swivel these around, and the two legs are going to peg into each other. So there you have that. All right, at this point, and this is where it gets a little difficult. So you have to bring the arms down. These pieces will unpeg from the side and fold down like that. You can see there's hinges and hinges here, so you just kind of bring them down like so. This opens up like this, and then the head and the torso kind of all, like you have to unpeg. How does this go? It's kind of weird. So this lifts up, this swivels around, and then this will kind of go down. And then that's going to show you a tab right there, which is going to tab in right here. So then you have to close this up. And it's honestly a pretty tight connection. The first time I did it, it was really hard to unpeg it. It gets a little bit easier with time. But yeah, just be a little careful, because this darker gray piece, once it's tabbed in, it's just kind of awkward to grab. So trying to pull it apart is a little difficult. At this point, you're going to want to kind of bring this out and up so that you can kind of start to bring the legs back, because you're going to need a little bit of clearance, because this piece has to swivel all the way down and lay flat. And because of the chest piece, it can't do that if the legs are straight down. It just doesn't have the clearance. So then you're going to bring this piece around and up, and that pegs in like that. And then this drops down like so. And then there are two large tabs here and here, which are going to peg underneath right there and there. So then this just drops down and pegs in pretty solidly. And then you can see the cannon is starting to take shape. You need to rotate these skirt pieces out of the way. So kind of bring these up. Oh, and I feel like I've trapped this one under the leg. There we go. So bring them up there so they're out of the way. Then you can see that there are tab slots right there. And there is a tab right there. So this is going to drop down. I want to make sure that these things aren't in the way. So this is going to drop down and peg in, and then this is going to these things are always getting in my way. Okay, so I guess leave them up like this. You can see that there's a tab slot right there. So this tab slot is going to tab onto this, and then there's a tab right here which is going to tab in there. So this comes down, that clicks into place, and then this comes down and tabs in on top of that. So we'll do that again over here. And then tab that there. And then you can kind of just play with the shoulder articulation to put these at whatever angle you would like. So something like that. So as you can see, you're pretty much done. But what you can do, the legs don't just stick out like this. You can actually bring them down. So the front of the shins are not going to move, but this piece will come down like so. Now they tell you to do it straight like this, and then you have these pieces here in the back that are going to come down. So they want you to do it straight down like this, but because of the ankle tilt, you can actually put her on a bit of an angle, and I just think it looks a little bit better to kind of put this back and then use the ankle tilt just to give it a little bit of an angle. It's purely up to you, whatever you like better. If you want it straight down, you can. If you like a little bit of the tilt, you can, because he was never usually straight. He usually had a bit of an angle to him. So again, whatever you prefer. So let me bring this down. And then you're just going to kind of, find the right angle for those, find the angle for this, however you like it. You're going to bring the cannon back in. This orange piece is going to unpeg, and this is going to peg into the front here. And then this just stores here on the back. And there you go. You have your Galvatron in cannon mode. And he looks pretty great. Now, like I was showing you before, you can take this and drop this down and then peg it in here. So that does happen. I think it looks ridiculous, but if you want to store it, come on, you can peg in better than that. There we go. So again, I think it looks goofy, but you can certainly do it. It is available there, but I'm just going to put it off to the side because I think it looks a little weird. But yeah, overall, the cannon mode I think is pretty successful. I mean, let's be honest. It's a goofy-looking alt mode, but it was a goofy-looking alt mode back in the day, and they have replicated it pretty well here. I mean, he turns into a giant futuristic cannon with a crazy giant orange barrel. But, safety. Got to have the tippy orange. But yeah, he looks good. I think he looks good. Like I said, if you want this to be more straight up and down, you certainly can. Whatever your preference. I mean, obviously, there's not really any articulation to speak of. It's just a cannon. It just kind of sits there. I guess technically you do have that tilt here in the treads, but that's about it. But yeah, he looks good. So this is a pretty perfect Galvatron figure. I wouldn't say it's 100% perfect, but it's pretty close. He looks great. Paint applications, color scheme, head sculpt is amazing. Articulation's good. The only minor things that I would complain about, like I said, I don't love the weathering. I feel like we're past that at this point. Can that just not be a thing anymore? Can we be done with it? But it's not a deal breaker by any means. Otherwise, paint application's really sharp. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the treads. I understand they're necessary, and I understand there's not really much they can do with them, and they kind of did the best they could. I do appreciate you can at least peg them into the back of the shoulder so they're not flopping around, but then it does hinder the bicep articulation. But again, it's kind of a trade-off, and you can always kind of unpeg it like I've done here to move around and get certain poses that you want. But those are minor gripes. Also, these side skirts are a little annoying to me, just because they kind of move around a little bit more than I'd like them to. Again, super minor complaints. Transformation's fun. It definitely feels, I don't want to say more complicated than it needs to be, but I was surprised there were that many steps, because, you know, he basically just kind of lies down and puts his arms down and he's a cannon. But, it works. I think it definitely works. He holds together well in both modes. He looks good. Like I said, I would maybe make the cannon just maybe an inch shorter. But again, these are all minor nitpicks. He's really great. He's a fantastic figure. Certainly the best Galvatron we've gotten. I mean, honestly, what have we had? The original toy, the Generations tank. You know, these are, I'm sure I'm not listing all of them, but from what I can think of off the top of my head, that Generations tank I always thought was a little weird, and is certainly an improvement over the Titan's Return. So, in my opinion, definitely the best Galvatron we've ever gotten. He looks fantastic. I love the Matrix accessory. These things, it's nice that they're included, and if you have HasLab or Unicron, you're going to get more mileage out of these. To me, they just don't do anything. I mean, hey, they're extra. I don't need them. They're just in the box. Personally, they don't do anything for me. I'm sure some people will appreciate them, but, this is all I need right here. He looks really, really good. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.